Today we are still on conversation, like I said in the introductory class and the subsequent classes after we learned the finals and the initials as well as the tones. I did told us that we'll continue with word formation and conversation so that we'll know how these words that we have learned can be used in daily conversation. The last two classes have been a classroom setting where in the first lesson, or let's say, I think the 10th lesson, it was a teacher speaking to the students. And in the 11th lesson, it was a student speaking to the teacher. So we see how the conversation supposedly similar but different context, because when a teacher speaks to you, he speaks within knowing that you are below, in the sense that you're a subordinate in a way. And when you speak with the teacher, you speak knowing that he is superior. So there is that difference in language. One of the things that came up in our class was the case, one of the things that showed up was uh, the ni and the ning. We changed both the tone and the character because that had to do with the ni had to do with colleague, the ning has to do with superior. In this class, we're going to be discussing, still funny enough, it happened to be the classroom discussion, which fell into lesson 5. So let's start. Di wo ke. Jie shi wan lao shi. It's more like an introduction. If you remember in the last class, I did told us that in English, if I was to interpret it, I'll call it Teacher Wang. And we don't use that usually. Here you say Mr. X or Mr. Y. But in China, if you want to call your teacher, you don't use Mr. You put in the teacher, meaning the Chinese teacher. And teacher in Chinese means Lao Shi. So you use Lao Shi and the surname of the teacher. Lao Shi and the surname of the teachers. Chinese speak usually with their surname when they identify themselves. They don't use their first names. They rarely use their first names, except if they are colleagues. But when they're introducing themselves, one of these days we'll just talk about Chinese culture. But when they're introducing themselves, they identify with the surnames. But only classmates can call themselves by their first names. They hardly have middle names. Sometimes they can have a single first name, or they can have a surname, a first name that is kind of composite in nature. So let's start. 这是王老师. This means in English, this is Teacher Wang. But if I look at it in Nigeria, this is Mr. Wang, who happens to be my teacher. Because we don't call our teachers Teacher Ade or Teacher this. We either use Auntie this, Mr. this. That's what we use to call our teachers here. So that tells us a different culture. But in Nigeria, in Chinese, they must put that teacher, but in Chinese. If I'm going to interpret it, if I were to be, if I was interpreting, I won't use Teacher Wang. I'll use Mr. Wang, my teacher. That's the way I'll put it, so that the people can understand that he's a teacher, because they have different teachers. For example, when they are doing karate, they still use Lao Shi in some cases, or they will use Shifu, which means, and Shifu means master, not necessarily teacher. So in that case, if you use Shifu, I can say Master Wang. You know, if it's a servant-master relationship as well, I could use that. They'll call it Laoban. In the office, they'll call it Laoban. So you say, my boss, Mr. X. You don't say boss Wang, for example, because they can say, what the Laoban, you know. So you can't use boss Wang. They don't even use Wang Laoban. Rarely they do that. So what am I trying to say? The context needs to be understood, but in a classroom, it's Lao Shi. Anybody that teaches you anything, mentors you, it's your Lao Shi. So if a Chinese were to interpret it, they will interpret it directly and use Teacher Wang, Teacher Precious, Teacher Zin, and all that. So, but I'm just trying to tell us that for Nigerians or for other languages, you don't use teacher X or Y. You have to use Mr. Who is my teacher? Meet my teacher, Mr. Wang, for example. That's what we would say if I were to say it in English. But in Chinese, they'll just say, 这是王老师. A Chinese person knows this is Mr. Wang, our teacher or his teacher. So let's go to the conversation. A child is introducing the father and the teacher. That's what this conversation is all about. From my reading, I could see it. He's introducing the father and the teacher. Now he comes in and says, 这是王老师, telling the father, this is Mr. Wang, my teacher. 这是我爸爸, this is my father. Then the father would not respond, but this is the father responding. From the context of the conversation, I could tell. The father is responding, 王老师您好. You know, we are back to the nin, which we studied in the last class, because Wang Laoshi probably is older than the father. So the father will not use ni hao, which is what you use for your junior or your contemporary. If you notice the character from the last class, if we are practicing, you would see the nin character, which is not the ni character. It's a nin character, not the ni character. Now it took the second tone, but the ni character takes the third tone, which is the up, down, up tone. Now, the father is saying, 王老师你好. Okay, Wang Laoshi is responding now. He also used 你好, 请进, 请坐, 请喝茶. Now somebody will say, wow, this is long. No, in Chinese culture, this is how it works. When I finish reading, I will know who is visiting who or who is visiting who. If they're in class, if they're in school, if one person is meeting the other person's teacher. But obviously this is somebody is meeting somebody at home. It's not in the class, neither is it, say, in an open space. The reason why I know is there is a chinjin. Chinjin means please come in. Chinzuo means please sit down. Chinkocha means please let me offer you tea, drink tea. Literal meaning means drink tea, but that's please take tea to drink, like giving somebody a coffee. But if you were to interpret it, it's not please drink tea. It's actually going to be let me pour you a tea or let me pour you a coffee. But this place is tea. Cha means tea. If it was cafe, it's coffee. I'm saying this because I've said it before in previous classes that Chinese languages are short, but the Chinese understand what they're saying. If you interpret literally and direct, it will be please drink tea. Meanwhile, that's not the actual thing in English language. The please, can I pour you a tea? Or please, let me pour you a tea, because a cup of tea. Because this is not like a question. So it is a sentence. It means, let me pour you tea. Meaning you're welcoming a guest, and that is what you would do. Now, in the third conversation, because you can see A, B, C. So A, I think, is the girl. B is the father. And C is Wang Laoshi. Now we're going back to B. B is thanking Wang Laoshi for being a good host. And C is saying, don't bother. Now, xie, like I told you, is thank you, which is what you do when I told you there are three things you must know in Chinese language once you want to start. It is ni hao, which is hello, normal. Xie, which is thank you. And zai jian, which is bye-bye. Those things are important. They are the three normal language you will hear, or words you will hear once you want to start learning Chinese. Because when you want to converse with a Chinese person, after maybe learning, you want to go and practice. To be nice for you to start with ni hao. Once you say ni hao, their antenna rises to like, who is this person that is not Chinese that understands my language? So you are welcomed already. Now, I don't know how well your Chinese will be. Probably you mix the Chinese and English when conversing, so they know you are a learner. But when you're done and you're leaving, you probably will say thank you to them for listening, and then you will tell them zai jian, which is like bye-bye. So those are the three key words for starters, for beginners. So C again, which is, like I said, C is Wang Laoshi. When the father is B. When the father said xie, which means thank you, Wang Laoshi said bukachi. Bukachi is like don't mention. It's not a big deal. you're welcome in our context, you know. Then one Lao Shi is asking, Gonzu or Mangma? Now one Lao Shi is asking the father, how is work? It's like in Hausa when you say yeah 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 Gonzu. Sorry, I'm using forgive me, I'm using Chinese, that's how I mix it. Yeah yeah Aiki. Or in Yoruba you say ṣé kò sí àti báwo ni ṣẹ́, and in English you be like how is work? That's what it means, like gonzo or mangma. Though when you listen to it literally, it looks like his work very busy. Yeah, people can use that. For example, I know in Hausa they'll say um usually they'll say usually the response is like bagejia or akwegejia. But when the person wants to ask you, I've forgotten the way they ask the question. But the question is like asking you like, is there stress? Are you busy? How is work and all that? Now I'm also learning Hausa, so you can see me mixing everything together. Sometimes I mix my Yoruba with Chinese. Just depends on who I'm speaking with. God help me. So that's one how she's asking now. Gonzu or Mangma? And the father is replying, Buta and Mang. As you can see in this picture, they are sitting. In this first picture, they're standing, introduction. The second picture now, they are sitting and you can see the coffee, the cup in front of the tea. Then B is like Buta and Mang, which is no, not so busy, which you could say literally, oh, eyes work in our own client. We'll say, fine, thank you. If the person is close to you and you can open up, you can say, well, a bit stressful, but we're catching up, you know. But in Chinese, politely they will tell you, especially because it's obvious he's meeting this man for the first time. So you can't start telling him his life story. He has to just make it short. Oh, man. Even if he's stressed, he probably would not say he's stressed. He say, man, it's not that bad. It's not that busy. Shanti Haoma, which is the one she also asking, how are you? How is your health? How is your body? And then the father responds, 很好, which means very well, very good. Let's go back to the beginning. This is obviously the daughter taking the father to one Laoshi's house. For whatever reason, whether for familiarity visit, maybe one Laoshi is a special teacher, maybe one Laoshi is a mentor, but obviously is a teacher, somebody who teaches her. So from the beginning, it's like she has to do the introduction. You notice she didn't speak again after that, which is normal in a Chinese setting. In Nigeria or in maybe the Western culture, the girl may still even be in the conversation all through. But in the Chinese setting, usually after that introduction, she sits until she's asked a question. That's just a different thing about culture. So the first thing, these are two strangers meeting, two strangers known by her. So she's doing the introduction. 这是王老师，这是我爸爸. This is Wan Lao Shi. This is my father. Now the father is like, Wan Lao Shi Ning Hao. Take note of the character changes, please. And Wan Lao Shi is also like politely saying Ning Hao, because at this stage nobody knows who is older or who is younger, and so they can't use the Ni, which is what you would have used for an elder, your contemporary or younger person. So they both use the respectful one for elderly people, Ning Hao. And then since they are guests, Chin Jin, please come in. Chin Zuo, please sit down. Please let me pour you a coffee or tea to drink. Thank you, polite thank you, not the refuser thank you. You know, there's a thank you, you say, oh, thank you, don't bother. And there is a thank you of, oh, thank you, I will do that, I will take it. So there is the share and there is the bokashi. So now they are seated at this point, and then the next conversation goes on. One Laoshe asks, Gonzo Mang Ma, are you busy at work? How is work? In the literal thing, this is how is work. Though the Chinese would have said Gonzo Zamayan. Gonzo Zamayan is how is work. But they won't use that because they don't ask that way. I'm trying to see something I can say in the Nigerian context that could make the Hausa makes it better because it's easier. Most times they say ya yara, ya azimi, ya this, ya that. What they are asking is how is, how is, how is. And our response is usually fine, fine, fine. Lafia, 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 except if you have something else to say. So for Chinese, when they tell you gonzo or mangma, they are not trying to ask you if the work is busy, though that is the literal meaning. It is just to ask you how is work, because it's just meeting you. So how is work? Now, how is work in Chinese to English direct translation would have been gonzo or zamaya, but they don't ask it that way. They cannot ask you gonzo or zamaya. It is gonzo or mangma. That is the Chinese way of asking gonzo or zamaya. If you were to interpret it in English, that is how is work, if I'm interpreting it. But if I'm doing a direct interpretation from what is written here, it means is work busy. But that is not what you ask, say, somebody you're meeting for the first time. So how is work? How are you? How is your work? But in Chinese, how is your work is translated to gonzo mangma in a conversation, not in the literal Chinese meaning. And the person will respond. It's either the person, because you put mang there, the person have to respond hemang or botai mang. That is also to tell you, if you say botai mang, it's trying to tell you that it's not that bad, it's fine. If you say emang, it's trying to tell you that it's quite tight. Do you get what I'm trying to say? I hope you guys understand, because this is a culture and a language. Culture and language are related. So if you want to interpret them directly from the way, as your Chinese grows and you understand the culture, you will see why they use some things. So if you want to do it literally like that, you might end up missing the ball. Then the next thing is Shinti Hauma. Shinti Hauma has to do with your health. So virtually asking you, how are you? How is your health? Remember they said Ni Hao before. So if I say another Ni Hao, it's like repetition. So now I have to ask in another way. Shinti Mangma, Shinti Hauma. So it's just to tell you, how are you? Your well-being, which has to do with health. When somebody asks of your well-being, is health. And Shinti there represents the well-being. But in the literal meaning and interpretation of Shinti Hauma, it's how are you doing? How is your well-being? Something in that way. Now, if you're conversing with a Chinese person, he knows that's what you're asking. But if we have to be interpreting, we'll be like, it means the person is asking of my health. Did I tell him I'm sick? No, it's just communication, culture, language. And he said, "很好," I'm fine. I'm good. Now let's go to new words. J. I remember in the last class or the last two class, I did told us that J means this and na means that. You can hear things like Jega. When people meet Chinese or hear Jega, Jega, they'll say and nega, nega. Some people will say they are using Jega, nigga, nigga, nigga. No. When they use J and ne, it means this and that. When they put ga to it, it means Jega means this. Nega means that. She here means is. Like I told you, there are different she's. But let's use it in the she here means is. Lao Shi, teacher. Ning is you in a honorific way. You can see the word honorific way, which means you use it for an elderly person for respect as well. Qin means please. Jin means to enter, to come in. Zuo means to sit. He means to drink. Cha means tea. Xie xie, thank you. Bukechi, you're welcome, like I said. Bukechi, it means our literal way of saying you're welcome, or don't be polite, it's a little thing. Kechi means polite, courteous. So when they say bukechi, it means don't be polite. But that's not what they're trying to say. If you add the bu to the kechi, it automatically means you're welcome, which is a way of saying it's okay in our own context. Gonzo means work. Shanty means health, body. You see, I've not even checked the new words, but because I've been in this before and I'm around the culture, I can tell you. So when somebody says Shanty Hauma, he's not asking you about, say, how is your health? It's more of a well-being thing of saying, how are you? When somebody asks you, how are you? The person is trying to ask you everything about you. Like, how is your well-being? How is everything going on about you? Your body, your whatever. Shi is 10. Remember we had another shi. That one is a down tone, which is Shi is 10. R is sun or day. depend on the context. And Wang is a family name in Chinese. Still on in this class, there is still the we've talked about this ch, and sh, we've done all these initials, and the finals is today is e, kind of, and then we have examples of where you can use these initials and put them in the finals um, to know which one they fit and what they mean. So we can't stop learning finals and initials. Every class has this. For serious students, please, this textbook is not a secret. I can give it to anybody that wants it. You can send me messages, or if you know me personally, peradventure work in the same place, and you want a copy, I could give you the soft copy. It's fine, so that you can learn these things again and again and again. It makes it easy. Continuous learning makes it easy. And then in that place, you will get the descriptions. I will not have time to start explaining to you. And then we go to how to see how a pinyin can be written with different tones, and also to see how you can learn know which pinyin represents which character. For example, you have j, 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 j. Which one represents this character? As you can see, it is j, jug. She, she. All these she, if you write them in the computer, in the system like I used to do, if you don't know the one you are looking for, I tell you the truth, you pick a wrong one for a wrong one. And if you're sending it to a Chinese person, you confuse the person. The second tone shi is 10. In Chinese, when they do you like this, it means 10. Shi. The other one, shi, or shi, is. So you can see both of them have the same finals and initials. It is the tone that separates them. And that was why I told us at the beginning of the class that your tone matters a lot, but your tone can either confuse or confirm what you're trying to say. You have shu, 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 shu. So you need to know which shu. Is it the book for reading? Shu, that's the first one. This one is book for reading. You have j, 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 j. This one is jaji. Jaji is magazine. Zaji. We're not taught in the class, we just did, but I think it's new word, so that this Zaji is a magazine, and it's the fourth tone. Shui, 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 shui. Shui. This shui is water. Shi. Lao shi, teacher. The she in the teacher. This character here is teacher, is the she in teacher. So you can see this she and this she and this she are different. This is the first tone, this is the second tone, and this is the fourth tone. Ren, 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 ren. Ren, ren means people. Shen, 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 shen. Shen, body. Shanty. Zuo, zuo, zuo. Sorry. Zuo, 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 zuo. Zuo means to sit. Gonzuo and this other sit. This one is gonzuo, which means work. When it's added to gon, it means work. In other time, when you use it alone as zuo, it still work. And this zuo means sit. They are both the fourth tone. So you need to know the character. The reason why you need to learn new characters and know the characters. And the key thing for me is the tone. Once you know the tone and identify the character that has what tone, because as you can see in even in this zuo, let me use it as an example. They have the same tone, the same pinyin, but different characters. So Chinese language is not like English. Knowing the tone is one thing. Knowing the character is another thing. Knowing the pinyin is another thing. They are all interrelated, because I could want to write Gonzuo. If I don't know this is the character I should write, I'll write this. Now, Gonzuo, if I write this, means public seat. Do you see how confusing it can be? Like, it will take you off what you wanted to say. Meanwhile, what you wanted to say was work. Now, these are pronunciation and tone, just telling us j, chi, shi, r, j, che, sh, r. 张成山人张长上任真欠新人正生正神生人. So you can see the way it is because the G came in, it changed the tone. Za, ja, this is za because it's a ZA. Za, ja, because of the ZH, changes it. Ta, cha, sa, sha. Z, j, or you can say j because the second tone j. S, ch, s, sh. Z, j. You can see this one as z, j because of ZH. S, qi, s, shi, s, shi. Sorry, I didn't see the tone before. S, fourth tone. Shi. So you can say s because it's SI. And this is SH. It changes it to shi. That's what happens when no, it's 40, 14, different thing. They are alphabets or letters, sorry. 休息小时知道迟到认真认真长城长城长张中文长份. So we can go on with that and on and on and on. And on and on and on. I will say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So just telling you the signs for Chinese language. They use 1, 2, 3. They hardly do 3 like we do like this. So you have to pay attention. You could go and the Chinese feels you cannot speak English. And so it gives you 1. They use the index finger. 2, they use the 2. But when they get to 3, they start with the 3 at the back. The small, the third. When you get to the 4, they use the 4 and they put their hands like this. 5 means everything. Now when they get to 6, they use the thumb and the last finger. When they get to 7, they use the index finger burnt with the thumb, with the thumb. When they get to 8, because of the character, if you look at the character, they do it like this. 9, you can see 9 is different from 9 doesn't have the thumb. The thumb is covered with all other fingers and then bent. When it was 7, it was not covered with all other fingers. It had the bent and also almost like it's touching the thumb when it was 7. But when it's 9, the thumb covers the other 3 fingers and is bent. And when it is 10, it's everything or they do it this way. That is how you know the Chinese alphabet. So now these are examples which are 这是王老师，这是我爸爸。王老师，你好，你好，请进，请坐，请喝茶，谢谢，不客气。工作忙吗？不太忙。身体好吗？很好。Now, they are writing it in pinyin and they want you to represent it. 这是王老师，这是我爸爸。王老师，你好。你好，请进，请坐，请喝茶。And 谢谢我 said it and 不客气。工作忙吗？ You have to write it. I remember during our time in school, we have to write the pinyin with the tone. When they give you in pinyin, they want you to write it and then put the right tone. So I expect you guys to practice the same. You write it in pinyin and put in the right tone. While the one they give you in characters, they want you to read it without the pinyin and read it well with the tones. So it's a practice class. That's why I said if you need a textbook, I'll freely give you without stress. Just inbox me, let me know, and then you have the textbook. That'll be all for the class today. The thing about getting the textbook is it helps us to practice and gives the opportunity to learn new words and understand it more. That's why, as much as possible, I try to stay more on the video, so that if you stay more on the video, you would see how these things are written. You can pause and learn. In this other class, practice and practice the anzi, which is Chinese character. Practice the pinyin and the tone, which is also good. Our class is going, and as much as possible, I want to keep the video short, but please, let's practice. Let's practice. Language is not easy. It requires practice. That'll be all for now. Bye for now from Auntie P. Thank you for listening.